All right, what's going on, guys? Shout out to Celtic Mulatto for that one. He's actually the one who pointed me out to that song. And for the lady on the screen right here, Mulata lady, Mulata identified. I felt like it's very fitting to play her with this track because you can see the caption. I saw this like about a week ago or something like that. This lady and the caption you see on the screen in Spanish, in Espanol. Of course, I'm learning my Spanish as I advise all of you mulattoes, mulatto Americans specifically, to do so as well. And her caption basically translates to life is more beautiful with a mulatto woman in your life. And even more so if that mulatto woman is me. So she's very confident in her mulatto identity and her sexuality. She's very confident in who she is. And that's basically why I played her, basically doing her dance with the track. The track was from Frankie Negron, Mi Mulata. Like I said, shout out to Celtic Mulatto because he's the one who pointed me out to that track, that song. I didn't even know that song until he, in the live stream I did, he pointed that out. Shout out to him. But yeah, just wanted to share that and then get into the commentary. And of course, in this clip as well, or this commentary, this video, this live stream, I have, as you can see in the description, a couple articles I want to share. This article, this first article I want to review. This is also in dedication, shout out to Celtic Mulatto, because he's the one, he basically shared this in my previous live stream on my other channel. This article is how it feels to be a Mulata me. Okay, and then it's 2015, January 22nd. So that's over 10 years ago, almost 11 years. These discussions have been had on social media. And this looks like it's on the page mixedremixed.org. And again, I'm going to point this out because this is important. Now, for me, everything I'm doing is mulatto centered. The spaces I've created, it's the mulatto centered spaces. Mulattoes are centered. They're the main topic of discussion. Mulattos. Everything I'm doing on social media. And so the lady here, of course, Mulata, quintessential. Look at her. Okay. But look on the right, you have Key. Key, right? He's a comedian, right? Mulatto guy. Underneath him, you have it's the other cat. It's Jordan Peele. So it's Key and Peele, right? Yeah, Jordan Peele is mulatto as well. But on the left, you have this other guy here. I think his name is Neo. He's like an artist, R&B artist, I believe. But I believe he has like Asian ancestry, if I'm not mistaken. If one of his parents are Asian, because I know when you talk about these mixed discussions, quote unquote mixed, this is what happens is they bring in these other kind of racial configurations that has nothing to do with mulatto. And that's why for me, mulatto is perfect because it's so specific. Mulatto, mulatta. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about the man, the woman who's European and African. But then you look at the page here, I'm going to read the source, this article, Mixed Remix. They include this guy here. I think it's this Neo. He's like an R&B guy. Super dark skin. I think they include him in the mixed discussion because he has some like Asian ancestry or something, which is perfectly fine. I'm not going to deny his birthright, his ancestry. I'm in no place to do that. But he's not mulatto. That's the key thing I'm getting here, guys. Is whenever you see something like a social media website or social media page, when it's like mixed or biracial, the antennas should go off and you should probably think, okay, wait a second. This is not mulatto specific. They got something else going on here. They're going to wiggle in something else, right? Because the lady here, we're going to read her article, pretty short article, I might add, but she looks complimentary to the comedian here, K or Keenan, I believe his name is. And then Jordan Peele, yeah. Like they all have this similar phenotype. skin complexion, facial symmetry, everything. These are quintessential mulattoes here. But then they have this guy here on the, we're like, well, what is he kind of doing here? He's mixed. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, he's mixed. Okay, that's cool. He has some Asian ancestry, but he's not mulatto. Like, what's the deal here? You got to be careful when you analyze these mixed pages on social media, quote unquote mixed or biracial, whatever they call themselves. You got to be careful because they throw in, they crowbar in these other identities, okay, sexual and Afrocentric identities. They crowbar that in to basically hijack the mulatto movement. This is what I'm here to point out to you guys. And trust me, along the way, a lot of people are not going to like what I have to say. A lot of enemies people will develop because they realize I'm catching on to it. And it's nothing against this guy, Neo, no shade to him. I know that his image is being used for this, mixed page, whatever, this website, but I see what they're doing. This whole mixed discussion, the biracial mixed, they're trying to hijack and take the wins of mulattoes, as we other communities have done, African American primarily, but we see that these other, LGBTQ communities are doing as well. They're going to hijack the mulatto wins, and they're going to kind of position you right next to these other identities that are they're not mulatto. you know, this Neo guy you see on the far left. Okay, just want to lay it out there. And if you guys disagree, please feel free to email me, post a comment. I'd love to teach you and educate you. Like I said, this was over 10 years ago, 2015. This is where are you from? I think most people probably have a ready answer for that question, right? I do too. But I also know depending on the day, the tenacity of my inquisitor, or depending on my own willingness to engage in the race discussion, my simple answer may not suffice. Where are you from? Most people have a simple answer, not me. Multiracial, mixed race, biracial. It's going to be this lady here, pretty mulatto lady. Where are you from? I hear it often, and sometimes the inquisitor means just that. It's funny because someone asked me, I posted on my X account, my Twitter account, X account. Someone yesterday, literally, a Hispanic lady, asked me like, "What's my ethnicity?" They don't ask black guys that. The guy that you see on the screen, the left, the far left, Neo. They're not gonna ask him, "Where are you from? What's your ethnicity? Where are you?" My great 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 grandma is 5% Japanese, so that makes me mixed race. Like they're not gonna ask him, what where he's from or what are you, right? They're gonna ask this guy on the right, the quintessential mulatto. They're gonna ask him, where are you? Where are you from? What are you, right? That's what I got asked yesterday. That's the mulatto question. They ask us, what are we? Right? And that lets you know you're not the same as them. Right? Who's them? Who's them? Who's them? Who is them? The people who want you to identify with them so they can conquer you and usurp you. That's who them are, right? Hi, nice to meet you. I'm from Texas. Where are you from? Oh, howdy. Pleased you could be here. Where are you from? Those those quote unquote where are you from's mean where do you live? How far did you travel? Did you have a nice flight or drive? Those quote unquote where are you from's are meant to greet, to welcome, to measure the distance geographically between when we each come from, where we each come from. Apologize. Then there is a question, where are you from? It comes usually with some hesitation. It comes after I have perhaps established some familiarity with the inquisitor. It comes often with a sheepish smile. So, the inquisitor says, a common preface, where are you from? Portland, I say. Portland, the inquisitor says. Portland, Oregon. I say, meaning Oregon, not Maine. Oh, my inquisitor will say, with an up intonation indicating a question mark, I have answered the question the inquisitor has asked, but I know it is not the answer he is looking for. Interesting gender component there. He, okay. And a black person, black male is not going to ask you where are you from. So she's speaking in this whole kind of context. Is she's speaking about white males, white males asking her, "What are you?" This is it. Just already right off the bat, we already know exactly where she is going with this. Okay. And I'm just saying that because you look at the page, it's the who's hosting this article, mixed remixed, right? In the title of the article is "Feels Mulata," and of course you have mulatto men here. But you should have mulatto women here, but you have like a black guy. But I guess he's mixed. I guess I don't know, but he's not mulatto. That's the key thing. So it's like, okay, what is this whole mixed thing you guys got going on here? Is this really mulatto centered? Because the mulattoes, we have to protect ourselves because we see what's going on. These different agendas, different communities are trying to basically erase us and wipe us out. So we see what's going on. Like you can demonize me all you want, but these other mulattoes, they're not going to fall in line with it. So we have to question this. When they use these innocuous terms like mixed and all this other stuff, we're like, okay, wait a second. Are they trying to shoehorn these other identities that are pro-black, pro-LGBT, anti-mulatto male? Like we got to question this because this is what we're seeing. If you can't even use the word mulatto, mulatta, you know, which the article, yeah, the lady who wrote the article, it's feels Mulata. So I give her that mulatto lady, but I'm just looking at the backdrop on this website and they include Neo. It's kind of like it's like an exotical thing they're doing here. They're the exoticals. They're trying to like blackwash mulattoes. We're like, well, Neo is not a part of our conversation. You can call it colorist and anti-black and all this other stuff. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead, that's your prerogative if you want to cry, but like that, this is not mulatto. That's not mulatto. That's not in part of our discussion. So to me, just the antennas, I'm thinking to myself, this is, yeah, something else is going on here. Okay, I have answered the question the inquisitor has asked, but I know it is not the answer he, like I said, he is looking for. Okay, where are you from? It's a question that I am asked almost daily. Where are you from? So she's mulatto and she's upset that white men are not accepting her as a white lady. Okay. This is basically what I'm gathering from this article so far. It is a variant and it's more familiar and less politically correct question. What are you? Which I got asked the other day by a Hispanic lady. She was older than me. I don't know how old she was. She was a lot older than me. But I got asked the other day, yesterday, by a mulatto. All right, excuse me, by a Hispanic woman. She asked me, "What are you?" What I just like basically segued and I didn't even want to answer the question. I just changed the subject to something else. Like I was kind of ignorant. You're asking me the wrong time, wrong place. Yeah, I don't care. And it's funny because yesterday there was a couple other mulattoes that I basically had my sights on. I was interacting with them. I was like, well, this is older Hispanic lady. The hell? I'm, I don't even want to like use this energy for the discussion for her. I was like, whatever. Let's just talk. I'm gonna change the subject to something else. Right? I'd rather talk to mulattas about this mulatto stuff. Okay. But yeah, I was asked the other day. So there you go. And I'm not going to write an article about it. I'll just provide my kind of firsthand knowledge. Politically correct question. What are you? The question asked of the ethnically ambiguous. Exactly. Because you don't look like Neo. You don't share Neo. I'm saying this mulatto lady, she doesn't share the same phenotype as Neo. She shares the same phenotype as this Key and Peele comedians, both mulatto dudes. So I'm sitting there, why does this website Mix Remix, they have this Neo guy here? And to me, it's very suspicious. But you know what? I've been examining these mixed spaces for the past 3 years, and I understand what it is. They basically want to steal and take all the wins of mulattoes And a lot of these mulattoes unwillingly don't get it. Like or they voluntarily, unless they're getting paid off, they voluntarily just sign up for it. Yeah, we're all the same. We're all mixed. Okay, that's cool. They erase. It's mulatto erasure. They steal your history. They erase you, your uniqueness, and they bury you underneath these other identities that are basically pro LGBT, pro black. They're pro black, pro LGBT, pro intersectionality, pro feminism. They're not mulatto centered. That's what's been going on with this whole quote unquote mixed race discussion. What my observation I've been seeing the past 3 years. That's what happens when you include these other identities, and this is not mulatto centered. That, of course, they're going to hoodwink you. They're going to have the mulatto lady who's providing this commentary, her article, but you look at the website, you're like, mixed remix. Okay, what does that mean? Why do you have this guy Neo here? That's not a mulatto guy. So what's going on here? What's really going on here? We got to further examine this because this is very sus. All right. And then she puts a question asked of the ethnically ambiguous. Those of us who have tan skin and light eyes, or thick curly hair and a bright white complexion, or those with an upslant to the eyes, to their eyes, thick lips and deep chocolate brown to their skin. Tiger Woods famously answered the question, "What are you?" by creating his own designation, Calbalinasian, a mix of Caucasian, Black, Indian, and Asian. Tiger Woods wanted to give a nod to both his mother, a mixed Thai woman, as well as his father, an African American, lighter in complexion, and no doubt, like most African Americans, part of family tree includes white people who may or may not have claimed him, who may or may not have owned him. Okay, whatever. Where are you from? When I heard Tiger Woods' answer, I remember I scoffed. Where does that make me from? Calplanasia? Even I am subject to the need to not simply label people, but place them. How does he answer the question? How does he answer where he is from? Look at a lady here. Okay. Where are you from? It's a question people ask me not to find out where I get my mail or the name of my birthplace. Rather, people ask the question to learn what is my race, my culture, my ethnicity, my nationality, one, all above. The thing is, the nationality is where you're born at. Your culture, okay, what food you eat, your traditions, your customs, which we're developing every day. Culture is developed every day based off routines, rituals, cultures, traditions. We're developing that. The thing is, the key thing here is the race, where you stand at. They say, where are you from? What are you? Like the lady asked me the other day, what are you? Look at my ambiguity. What are you? Right? They're asking, this is race. What team do you fight for? Whose side are you on? It's a tribalistic society. So that's what they're talking about, race, RACE, which is competition. Whose side are you fighting on? That's what they're asking you. She knows it, but she's, this article, whatever it is mixed remixed, and they include some guy here who's not mulatto. So we clearly understand the positioning, what they're doing here. I'm just here to provide some clarity for my audience. The best I can, the most non threatening approach, especially on this channel. Yeah, culture, ethnicity, nationality. Okay. The assumptions behind the question is if I can find out where you fit, right? What team you belong in. And we go back to that race, talking about fit. Whose team, whose side are you on? On the map, I will know your race. There you go. I will know something about you. I can place you geographically. Okay. It's not necessarily a bad assumption. Race, it seems, is as much an experience, a place as anything else. Zora Neale Hurston, Harlem Renaissance novelist, folklorist, and anthropologist, wrote in a wonderful essay titled How It Feels to Be Colored Me. Let's read her excerpt here. I remember the very day that I became colored. Up to my 13th year, I lived in the little Negro town of Edsonville, Florida. It is exclusively a colored town. The only white people I knew passed through the town going to or coming from Orlando. But changes came in the family when I was 13 and I was sent to school in Jacksonville. I left Eatonville, the town of Orleanians, as Zora when I disembarked from the riverboat at Jacksonville. She was no more. It seemed that I had suffered a sea change. I was not Zora of Orange County anymore. I was now a little colored girl. I found it out in certain ways, in my heart as well as in the mirror. I became a fast brown, warranted not to rub nor run. I don't know the context, the date. It's not showing there, but this is Florida based testimony there. As a mixed race person with phenotypically black and white features, my identity is not just black and white. A question of being one thing at home and another out in the world, not my identity is. Read the rest of the article here. And I click on the link, and the article is closed. So that's basically what we're getting. That's all I'm going to present and give to you because that's all they're showing. What else do I have to show? Let me show again the image of the lady who wrote the article. How it feels to be Mulata me. Okay. Like I said, my antennas go up, my suspicion, because I'm like, why did they put Neo there? How is Neo included in this discussion? The name of the article, it just doesn't seem fitting, but this is what you run into when you make this type of content. This is why this specificity is ultra important, because these interlopers, they're always going to weasel their way in. I'm going to make a video. It's going to be for my Patreon, but it's I saw some comments earlier on TikTok. A Black American person, a pretendian, who's basically trying to say, and they're a lot of them are doing that now. They're saying, well, originally mulatto was meant for a person who was Indian, and they're liars. Indian has their own designation. It's always been Indian. They have treaties with the government. It's Indian. It's not mulatto. They don't have mulatto treaties with the government. They have specific set asides and treaties and agreements and deeds that are Indian, right? But you'll have Black Americans who are pretendians who will co-opt and hijack that history, and they'll try to trick and confuse mulattoes, right? To steal our identity. They'll try to sit there and say, well, mulatto originally meant, no, originally mulatto meant what it still means today, white and black. And so they're gonna try to steal that, man. Like they steal the Native American, they steal the Jewish history, they steal the Egyptian. It's crazy how they steal everybody's history, and they're coming for mulattoes now, man. It's with the Dan Calloway and the Pretendians and all that stuff. Like they're trying to steal our history, man. Originally on the census, it was listed as mulatto if you were Indian. It's crazy. The lengths, you mulattoes, you're listening to me. You better wake up and be prepared, because they're coming. They're coming to steal our identity. They've already tried to steal the Israelite Jewish people. They're trying to steal the Native American people, their history. They're going to steal mulatto history. And you got to watch out. These websites you see, Mix Remix, they include the guy Neo next to these mulattoes. See, they use mulattoes as like this representation of mixed and biracial and pro mixed and multiracial. They use our image, our palatability, but then they sneak in these other identities and other people. They're not mulatto. That's why mulatto clears all of this up. It gets rid of all of this extra noise. It clears it all up right away. We're like, okay, the people you see here, this lady who wrote the article, Kay and Peel, these are all mulattoes here. If we look on the left, we're like, okay, Neo, yeah, you're not mulatto. Done. We've cleared it up already. We let you know already what the deal is. So when we look at the website host, Mix Remix, I don't know who they are, not endorsed or sponsored by them, but we're like, okay, that's not mulatto specific. So now you got a mulatto man like me who's commenting on this, looking at this like, okay, Yeah. Let's see how many mulattoes are going to go for this. Okay. Got a comment. Shout out to you. I think you're from France. I believe you're up in Quebec. Shout out to you. I appreciate you. Majestic Butterfly, you put, they are coming at the Indian from India now, too, calling them black. That's serious. Yeah, they're destiny swapping and hijacking everyone's history. And it's sad because you have some mixed people who play around with it. And I feel like it's dangerous. Like this website where they include Neo there. It's like because you have like these kind of exotical type of people who do the same crap. Like, and it's because they're basically feminist and LGBT, intersectional feminist. And that's what happens is that their identity is based off this kind of lesbianism and LGBT and feminism. It's not like purely a mixed or pro mulatto kind of identity. That's the issue we have here. And they try to shoehorn these other identities and they're lying to us. But they want to use our image. They want to use the image of mulattoes to represent mix, but then they put in like guys like Neo. This guy has nothing to do with mulattoes. Okay. He's not one of us. He's not mulatto, but they put him there like, why? And then when they do that, they're going to point the finger at you and say, oh, you're colorist, you're anti-black. No, we've never said nothing negative on this stream, okay, about black or dark skin or any other color. No, it's not about color. You're not mulatto, sir. Neo. And I said respectfully. But to me, it's not even about Neo. I don't know. I don't listen to his music. It's not, it's just the people who put his image there and wanted to include him with these mulattoes were like, why did they do that? What's the agenda here? Why they try to misconflate like you guys, you're nothing at this point. If they're gonna put you, this mulata, and these mulattoes, these comedians, if they're gonna put you in the same box, so to speak, as a Neo, that means you're nothing. You're nobody. Like this mixed label, that means nothing. And you have a mulatto man, me, Mulatto History Channel, live. Hit the like button, guys. I'm telling you this. This is how they steal and co-opt your identity. They put you in the same category, the same place as these other people. Like this is how they co-opt you and erase you. You're nothing at this point if you just use this whole mixed label. They've already misappropriated and hijacked that term, that label. Mixed, because now they're saying multi-ethnic and all this. It doesn't mean anything. They've already stolen your identity from you when they position you in this fashion. That's why you have to be the person who's your own narrator. You have to control the microphone and tell your own stories. Because if you don't, you're going to have these other identities, LGBT, intersectional feminists, these type of people. They're going to throw you in here with everybody else and just steal your entire operation, your entire identity. Okay. You guys can feel any type of way you want about it, but at least have the decency and dignity to kind of debate me and prove to me that I'm wrong instead of throwing your ad hominem attacks. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. You guys, you cannot prove me wrong. We see what's going on. The logical men who are around these spaces, we see what's going on. And yeah, I'm one that's like not having it. That's why it's important to distinguish yourself independently and create your own social media and let it be known that this is mulatto centered. These other, identities are trying to kind of crowbar in. We're not speaking for them. They can go create their own space. Okay. If they're like multi-ethnic or whatever, like the Neo guy or whatever they got going on, that's not mulatto. The reason why I read the article because it was a mulatto lady who wrote the article. It's me mulata. Okay. And I played the song mulatto. Like this is the whole point is we want to talk about mulatto stories, mulata stories and center us. Like when they're trying to put these other people there in the midst of our discussions, it's very, very problematic and unnecessary. And I'm gonna be the guy, the one to tell you that it is very, very unnecessary. Okay, let me check out this article here. Okay, this is gonna be the main one before I kind of get out of here. La Mulata, Cuban's national symbol. This is November 30th, 2005. It's about the same year As the other article I just, or actually, no, it's actually 10 years prior. This is 20-year-old article. I kind of got the dates a little mixed up, pun intended. This is 20 years prior. The article I read for you earlier, the how it feels to be a mulatto me, that was 2015. This article is 2005. This is very old, 20 years ago. Based in Cuba, which, as you can see, the thumbnail is Cuba based. And the song I played, Frankie Negron, he's actually Puerto Rican guy. The Mi Mulata song, he's a Puerto Rican dude. And the lady that was dancing, the mulatto lady, who's proud mulatto, I think she's from Venezuela or Dominican Republic. Forgot exactly where. But yeah, in that region. All right, let's check this out. The mulata is Cuba's national symbol. She began as a product of Spanish imperialism and slavery on Cuba's tobacco and sugar plantations. She is a product of a socio-economic inequality and the sometimes violent exploitation of black women by white men. The mulatto was sexualized by white men in the 19th century, vilified as a quote unquote loose woman, and then used as a tourist attraction for European and North American men in the 20th century. They said used as a tourist attraction. Interesting. During a special period, she has been returned to her roots as a symbol of sexuality. Once again, a draw for white tourists. The mulata is treated similarly throughout the Caribbean and Latin America, including in Brazil. In Cuba, as in Brazil, she is a national icon. They're saying the mulata is a national icon in Brazil and Cuba. Interesting. The appeal of the mulata is international. She is the symbol of Cuba's racial, economic, and gender hierarchies. I will argue that the mulata is the personification of Cuba. When Cuba is controlled by white imperialists, the mulata's body is used by Cuba's exploiters, as both country and woman are seen as familiar yet exotic. La mulata remains a symbol of Cuba's diversity and beauty, as well as its and external racial, economic, and gender inequalities. Cuba is ambivalent in its portrayal of the mulata. On one hand, she is the emblem of its national identity, the living, breathing symbol of Cuba, since the fate of the mulata often resembles Cuba's own destiny. Interesting. Very eloquently wrote, whoever wrote, the lady who wrote this article. I tried to look her up, but I couldn't really find that much on the author. But like I said, I went to the restaurant in Miami called La Mulata, a Cuban restaurant in Miami, and just the branding was very interesting. How they branded that restaurant, and it's like there's something there to that. I'd like to dig a little deeper. They're very comfortable branding the image of a mulata to make money, but it's like it's not like mulattoes aren't even running it. It's like, what? How is this happening? Where are the mulattoes at? Where are the mulattoes at to kind of correct this? Okay, take control of the market, establish market share. Of course, the mulattoes are always going to be involved. They're our counterparts. We don't own them. They don't own us. We're partners. But it's like, why is it that these other people are able to make money off of us when that's our money? We have to wake up and realize what time it is. Okay. On the other hand, she is Cuba's biggest fear. Cubans fear that her exploitation by white foreigners mirrors Cuba's own exploitation by imperial powers. Machismo, or a strong or extravagated sense of masculinity, stressing attributes such as physical courage, virility, domination of women, and aggressiveness, is a part of Cuban culture. That whole machismo is basically Latin male kind of culture. We can say that. Because where I come from in Southern California with Chicanos, which is Mexican Americans, that's the whole kind of stigma thing there with the males. They talk about is machismo. So that can kind of be just generalized across the Spanish speaking world. Under this system, Cuban men can penetrate and control Cuban women, but to have foreigners penetrate them instead threatens Cuban masculinity. If the mulata is penetrated by foreign men, she is seen as being vulnerable, and Cuba loses an aspect of its power and its potency, something very important to such a machismo driven society. If the mulata is used, Cuba is perceived as being weak. The perspective is interesting. It just sounds kind of feminist, kind of oriented already, but it's interesting just analyzing it, the text. Many Cubans have come to recognize the importance of the mulata in terms of their national identity. For better or for worse, she's a symbol of Cubans' plight or triumph as a country. Nicholas Golian, a mulatto Cuban poet, has said, quote, Cuba's soul is a half breed, and it is from the soul, not the skin, that we derive our definite color. Someday it will be called Cuban's color, end quote. Because Cuba is a combination of many ethnicities and races, the mulatto embodies that diversity. This racial diversity is common in the Caribbean and other places in the world, but this is a tricky one. But mestizaje as part of particular currency in Cuba since 1890s, when Jose Marti began to popularize the idea of our half-breed America. Interesting. Guys, check that out. Our half-breed America. We should probably look into that more, right? Mistage, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, apologize, has been perhaps the principal signifier of Cuba's national cultural identity. The mulata, as a blend of black and white, slave and master, exploited and exploiter, is a blend of all aspects of Cuba, thus a symbol of its identity. Interesting thesis we have here. Very interesting thesis we just pointed out. The mulata as a blend of black and white, slave and master, exploited and exploiter. That duality. Yes, they can position the mulata as being exploited, but then they're also like, well, she is a exploiter as well, right? Is a blend of aspects of Cuba, symbol of its identity. Interesting, very interesting. Okay, sugar, sex, and marriage. Cuba's beginnings as a tale of imperialism and slavery, and the mulatto reflects both the external and internal inequalities that existed in the 18th and 19th centuries. Sugar and tobacco were the main source of Cuba's economy and both heavily depended on slavery. The 19th century depicts a mulatto woman on cigar and sugar packages, link the mulatto with Cuba's economic identity. Interesting. It says the 19th century depictions of mulata, on cigar and sugar packages link the mulata with Cuba's economic identity. I like to see those products. Like I said, because modern day today, 2025, we can see that they have like Cuban restaurants like La Mulata, right in front of your face in Miami, Florida. But I'd love to see like some of these, they're talking about sugar packages, cigar and sugar packages, like with the mulatto woman on it. It's interesting. This is the history. Like there's a lot of mulattas in Cuba. Like we explore Brazil, we know in Brazil and Dominican Republic, etc. There's a lot more history that I need to uncover. I'm going to be uncovering a lot more in Haiti with a friend of mine. So much history in Haiti that most of us don't know about. But I'm examining this text we look at in Cuba, where they're selling products, their national identity, the cigars, tobacco, sugar. And it's like they're branding it. They have the image of the mulata to sell the product. Like this is something significant, very significant as far as mulatto history. How they're using the image of mulattas to sell their national products, right? This is something American mulattas should kind of look into and examine. Mulattas were seen as a source of income, as a way to sell products. Depictions of their bodies and illusions of their sexuality were enough to sell sugar to white men. You guys hear that? You guys see that? You want to read it again? Mulattas were seen as a source of income, as a way to sell products. Depictions of their bodies and allusions to their sexuality were enough to sell sugar to white men. The foreign white male was especially intrigued by mulattas' perceived sensuality. A white man who purchased Cuban cigars or sugar would most likely be faced with a drawn depiction of a mulatta. Foreigners came to view the mulatta as a symbol of Cuba's sexuality. They also saw the mixed race woman as being exotic as compared to the woman they associated with. This was an ingenious marketing strategy for the tobacco and sugar industries, as sex really does sell. Although mulattas' bodies were being exploited to sell products, they also served as a point symbol for Cuban culture at that time. The social, racial, sexual, and economic inequalities of the day were all addressed using the mulatto's body as a means to represent these issues. The classification of non white women in terms of different grains of refined sugar is most striking in the Marquilla series entitled Muestras de Azúcar de mi ingenio. I know my Espanol is horrible. I know I'm working on it. Sugar samples from my plantation. First rate sugar and second rate white. Sugar refer to light mulattas. Second rate sugar refers to brown skin mulattas with Negroid features. Interesting. So they have the sugar grade based off the mulatto features. This is interesting history, guys. Not that many people talk about it, do they? Lighter mulattas were prized amongst white men and within black society as well. They had the ability to pass for white, but were surrounded by a mystery as to their heritage. What are ya? What are ya? Puerto Rican or what are ya? Cuban or something? What are ya? The fact that darker, less expensive sugar was linked to darker mulattas demonstrates that darker women were not as highly prized as lighter ones. White women did not stand in for the sugar comparison. However, as sensuality and sugar were both attached to the mulatta, directly linking different grains of sugar with mulatto bodies made the product sensuous and appealing to buyers. Certainly, this also degraded mulatto women. And the sugar companies profited off of racism and sexism, representing Cuba's internal gender and racial inequalities and reflecting foreigners' desires to sexualize the mulatta and Cuba. And the source here looks like 1993. So this was about 30 years ago. Interesting. In reality, not just in advertisement, mulatto women, mulatta, were subjected to the sexual advances of white men. Many mulatto women were, quote unquote, the prey of white men in sexual liaisons that were very largely legitimized through marriage, end quote. The reason for the prevalence of concubinage is complex. First, it is a question of numbers. There were fewer white women than white men in Cuba throughout the 19th century, but more black women than black men. Poor white men could not afford to marry white women who were usually of the upper class. It's interesting. You see that in the United States. You see white males getting with Hispanic women. You see white males becoming basically passport bros, going to the Philippines or Thailand, getting a brown skinned Asian woman. It's interesting. You see that today. You have a large segment of white American males who they don't meet the standards to get with a white American female because the economy is pretty much balanced in as far as the job market. White women can basically do any job a white male can do. There's some physical restrictions, right? You have policemen or policewoman or fireman, firewoman, or the military. Some of these kind of more physically demanding jobs, there are differences. I know people will kind of push back on me with that, the biological differences. That's cool. I welcome it. That's not what this channel is about. But there's differences between the gender, sexes, and that's typically when you see males more represented in those fields. But for like, management or, governance, etc., these other positions, like the white women have as much market share to get these positions, as far as using your mind to work and make money. And so a lot of these white guys, they're just they don't have access to white women. So they're looking to go to Asian women or other groups, or specifically Hispanics, Mexicans as partners, right? It's a whole other discussion. I'll get into that in my other channel. This is more history focused, but there is some overlap there. But yeah, therefore they turn to mulatto women who are not fully black. See that? They're mulatto, they're not black. A black person has two black parents. A mulatto doesn't. A mulatto has two mulatto parents, or a white parent and a black parent. Period. End of story. So right here, the article, the lady who wrote the article, there's a difference, which we know. We explore that, the identity, culture, heritage, biology, science, history. We explore that on this channel. There is a clear, distinct difference between a mulatto woman and a black woman. It's not interchangeable. It's not the same. They are not the same. Completely different. And of course, this article, they're telling the truth. That's what we see. And substantially below them in a racial hierarchy, but also not white and therefore more easily convinced to have sexual relations because of their desire to quote unquote advance racially assimilation. What they're saying, advance racially assimilation. There was legal restrictions on marriage between the races, but it was not impossible, to get approval from the government. In fact, two-thirds of those who applied for marriage licenses were granted a right to marry between races. Thus, it would not be accurate to attribute interracial concubinage solely to the official prohibition of marriage. If marriage was not possible for at least some couples, then why did white men refuse to marry their mistresses? The answer may lie in Cuba's racial consciousness that stemmed from economic concerns. The mulatto was a product of slavery and exploitation. For a white man to marry a mulatta and acknowledge his children with her would be to lessen his status. Under hypodescent, his children would be assigned to the mother's race and would be given a lesser status in society. It did not matter if a woman was light enough to pass for white. If she was legally black, then she was labeled as such, and her children were given the same label. So hypodescent. So the Caribbean, we know they're adopting even all of basically the whole Western world. They're going to be adopting these kind of Western United States racial imperialist codes. Where they're trying to force that in Dominican Republic, and they've even tried to force that in Jamaica and force that right now in Brazil with academia and media. But yeah, and you're saying Cuba, they're trying to enforce that as well. That one drop rule, the hypodescent. So in these other nations where they impose these trade wars and tariffs and sanctions, they're also going to impose their theology on these nations. You got to accept our rules and edicts, and this is how we see things. Yeah, yeah, you know. That's why you need Americans, freeborn, proud, red, white, and blue blooded Americans to push back against this. You need it. You need the Americans to push back. Say, we're a voice for America. We're the American voice. We're pushing back. Everybody in America doesn't lockstep with this ideology. All right. So you need guys like me and gals and women like the mixed lens and other proud mulattoes to push back against this rhetoric, because they're trying to speak for us. They're trying to say that this is imaginary. This is just the law. This is just academia. This is just the way it is. And no, 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 no. We have Americans on the microphone, okay, live, pushing back against this rhetoric. We're American. We're living here. We're telling you, no, we don't abide by this. In my everyday life, we don't do all this stuff. We don't accept this. No. So who are they really talking about? A select few. which will be challenged, and they are going to change their views. The thing is, once they realize we're out there, we're out here in the blogosphere and internet, once they realize we're here, they're going to basically be inspired and motivated. Their views are going to change. They're going to realize, oh shit, they were lied to. Okay. Shout out to all you guys in the comments. I see you guys. I'll get to you guys in a bit. Just want to finish this off. Century, Cuba is not physically appearance as such that caused prejudice and discrimination, but what physical appearance stood for individuals' occupation role, economic system based on the exploitation of one other group. Mulatto women, despite their possible Caucasian appearances, were quote unquote tainted by their relationship to the economic institution of slavery. If a man had a child with such a woman, then a child was linked to slavery and was not given the status of a white person. They're not Anglo. It's funny. And Cuba is interesting because they have Italians, like in Argentina. There's a lot of Italians, but they think they're kind of, not saying all, but generally they kind of think they're special, that they're Anglos. They're basically Italians who speak Spanish. They're not Anglo. That's kind of thing with Latin America. It's kind of a trick bag because there's a lot of these people who are Spanish or Italian, Southern European, but they think they're Nordic or they think they're Anglo, but they're not. There's a hierarchy within the white race, you know. So that's kind of interesting thing here is you look at the kind of hierarchy. It's like you have people who are, on my other channel, I'll get into it, but it's like with like some of these white nationalist people, some of the most pro-whites that you see, like even Nick Fuentes, these other types, they're like half Mexican, they're like half Latino or something. They're not pure Anglo. So it's interesting. It's like, how the hell are you so pro-white pushing it, but you're not even like pure Nordic or pure Anglo? Like you got some other stuff going on in your heritage and gene pool. It's like, how is that happening? Like, but it's a trick back, Latin America. It really is. It really is. With the caste system, colonialism, and these hierarchies that are put in place, right? My whole thing is to examine where do mulattoes and mulattas fall into that. That's my position here, analyzing this stuff. Where do we fall into that? Because we understand these racial imperialists, they want to use us for their political gains, financial gains, as we see with the economy in Cuba. They want to use us for their agenda. That's where I come into play. It's okay, people want to use us to claim our wins and they make money off of us, but like my whole thing is to basically take our power back. Where do we fall into all this? Okay, where are our voices that are going to advocate for us? Where are they at? If a man claimed a mulatto child as his legitimate offspring, then the father himself would be linked to slavery. Most of the time, white plantation owners did not acknowledge their illegitimate children with darker women. This set a trend for other white men who had dark mistresses. I believe that this fear of slavery stems from more than racism. It also comes from class basis, as well as from seeing slavery as a reminder of Cuba's repression and economic exploitation by Spanish rule. Thus, a mulatta was later viewed as a symbol of oppression during Cuba's battle for independence during Spanish rule. As a product of violence, the mulatta is indeed the supreme flower of injustice. The wordplay is very interesting. The mulatto is indeed a supreme flower of injustice. The mulatto was formed by the economic exploitation and physical rape of Black women and was therefore representative of injustice of a colonial system. But guys, again, this is a Cuban analysis, Cuba's standpoint. Okay, this is not directly, geographically around the world, whether United States or England. It's interconnected mulatto identity. That's what we're here to explore, examine mulatto history. But there's nuances here just based off Cubans' political identity and their economy and their existence. Okay. The mulatto could not be treated in such a way if she were an innocent victim. Consequently, white men labeled her as a social deviant. In order to justify their actions, cigarette lithograms intended for largely white foreign or local male audience depict mulattoes receiving money from white men in exchange for sex. In showing the woman taking money, sex, stripped of all affection associations, is a commodity exchange not for social status but for hard currency. The artists of the cigarette lithographs are denying the mulattas social incentives for engaging in sexual behaviors with white men and to make them literally into prostitutes. It's interesting. I didn't know, like I read earlier in the article, they said they had like cigar packages and sugar packages with mulattas. I'd love to explore and examine more of this history because, like I said, they already have restaurants branded La Mulata in Miami, but and there's a coffee company like we already shared on this channel, Mulatto Coffee, and there's other products like rum. Shout out to Celtic Mulatto. He told me there's a rum company that's selling rum. Another gentleman told me there's like a Colombian beer company, Cerveza, where they have like mulatto, mulata beer. But like these guys, they're saying they got cigarettes. They got images of cigarettes depicting this stuff. Like there's real products out here. Like we have to explore and examine this stuff. I'm just doing my part here on social media. I don't have all the information. My job is to take what I know, what others share with me, and pass it on to all of you guys, okay, to inform you. And I would want you guys to inform other people. Let them see the history, let them see the information, okay? But it's interesting. Let me go back to where I was at. A cigarette lithograph is entitled El Palomo y la Gavilana, or Male Dove and Female Hawk. She's not present as a victim and is seen as this sexual, out of control woman who tempts good white men into committing sinful acts. Interesting. Would they call that a sultress or something? I don't know. A temptress, a sultress. A popular saying in the 19th century was that there is no sweet tamarind fruit nor a virgin mulatto girl. Interesting where they find that at. And this was what they have the source here, 1989. Martinez Allier. Interesting. This source is interesting. Quote unquote, there is no sweet tamarind fruit nor a virgin mulatto girl. Interesting. You guys should look into that. Look into these sources. Of course, I'm going to link this article here. The whole purpose here is that keep you guys informed, to explore this history and see how it kind of translates to what we see in America, right? Some of the exploitation, the selling of products, and the product we can see is like hip hop, how they're using hip hop, the image of mulatto women, right? And they're selling mulatto women like a Ice Spice or like a Miss Mulatto, how they're selling these women to what audience, what market, right? They're selling a product. What are they? They're selling sexuality. They're selling a big booty and some hip hop beats and some raps. Like they're selling sexuality, right? We're looking in Cuba, where it's like they have this kind of natural resource based economy, agricultural based economy, where they have sugar and cocoa and tea, coffee, and tobacco based economy. Like they're still using the image of mulattas to sell their products. So it's something to look into. The opinion of foreign white men that mulatto women were inherently sexually depraved was furthered by these depictions, as well as by the evolutionary theories at the time, which claim that the African races were inherently depraved. Conflicting images make it necessary to define what white men's incentives were for using the mulatta in this way. Conflicting images were made images make it necessary to define what makes white men's incentives for using the mulatto this way. Let's check it out. Political and commercial affairs were dominated by white men in colonial Cuba. By the images that were dominated, literature and popular culture were of non-white women. In Cuba's white dominated patriarchal system, so white males control it. But then again, what is a white? What are you talking about? Italians, right? Isn't that what is it? Fidel Castro, his lineage, his family, aren't they like Italians or something? Like Argentina, these aren't Anglos. The thing is, in the United States, when we say white, it's Nordic, it's Anglo, German, Scandinavian. Okay, that when we say white in America, where they're not talking about Italians, that's something else. There's a history there. But in Latin America, there's a lot more nuances. That's the key thing here. It is the Mulata that stands out as a national symbol. Even at the time that she was most mistreated, her perverse sexuality was an obvious artificial construction. While she engaged in sexual liaisons with white men because of the social demand to whiten, honor was elevated highly by the colored people. Many young mulatto women were misled by the lies of their white lovers. In Cecilia Valdez, a novel by this Villaverde, a barda is courted by a white man, dishonored and abandoned for a white woman. She was a mulatto suitor, but she cast him off because she wrongly believes that her white lover will honor her with marriage. Cecilia knows that if she has children with a mulatto man, her offspring will not be able to rise in society. Interesting. Interesting. Cecilia, interesting. A novel. Aparta is courted by a white man, dishonored and abandoned for a white woman. She has a mulatto suitor, but she casts him off because she wrongly believes that her white lover will no longer will honor her with marriage. So she disses the mulatto man because she thinks that her white lover, she's cheating on a mulatto man with the white guy. She feels like will honor her with marriage. But Cecilia knows that if she has children with the mulatto man, her offspring will not be able to rise in society. Do you guys see a correlation in the United States? Okay, you have these light skinned guys or mulatto guys who talk about light skinned women, you know, and how they choose the black group, the dark skinned community, right? Do you guys kind of see the similar kind of correlation there, right? Do they, they want their children to be black to be accepted by that group? Oftentimes, because if they have a child, they have children with mulatto children, their children, they're going to be like, okay, where do they fit into? Well, it's on them to help build a community for mulattoes. They don't want to do that. That's fine. They don't have to. But, you know, my whole thing is here is like, okay, well, once you are with those other groups of males, please don't bring your offspring over here expecting mulatto men to then like have a place for them. This is kind of the wrong place. This is a mulatto centered space. That's my whole thing here. But if you're with a mulatto guy and you have mulatto children, it would be like they're gonna own it. They're gonna take this over. Like when I'm done, I'm gonna be old. I'm already old, I guess. I'm in mid-30s. But it's like you know, once your children grow up, they're adults, and I'm much older, like they're easily gonna take this over and lead with it. Like that's the whole point, is for the future generation of mulattoes to take over this, But you didn't decide to get with the mulatto guy. You wanted to fit in the white society. You wanted to fit in with black society. So you have black kids, or I'm sorry, I mean Griff kids. Okay, they're black. So you wanted to be a part of that group. So it's like, okay, well then you need to teach your children to go work their way up in those groups. But it's very disrespectful when you expect the mulatto men to like take in your baggage as if we're supposed to uplift them, but they're not a part of our group. Like you didn't choose a mulatto man. Like we don't owe them anything. Like so that's the whole thing. It's very interesting. Like being in these spaces, navigating these spaces, talking to different people, men and women, it's very interesting. Some people just think they can like throw their baggage on you, right? And like, they're gonna pass off their kind of bastardry to you as if you're supposed to like honor it. It's just no, I'm not obligated to do that. Okay. This is a mulatto centered space. So the discussions are centered around mulattoes. And that's we're just unapologetic about it. Don't care. Don't care. All right. That she has children with the mulatto man, her offspring will not be able to rise in society. I guess, yeah, they'll be able to rise in society if you mix in the white society. You'll have white children, okay, or quadroon. But it's funny because a lot of times they're going to be the ones that are going to identify as biracial. You have like Amber Rose or like Logic, and there's a guy even on TikTok. It's a quadroon guy, but he's like pushing the one drop rule and pro blackism and stuff like that. And it's just funny. It's like, bro, you're whiter than me, and you're pushing this pro black stuff. Like that's not a good look, bro. Like your dreadlocks aren't going to help you out, bro. And yeah. So we don't want to create that situation. We want the mulattoes who love being mulatto and they want to pass it on. That's it. That's the whole process here. These are the people my goal is to attract. They're naturally going to fall into this. Like I said, my whole goal, they're going to take over this. I'm just laying out the groundwork, setting up the bricks. They're going to come over here. They're going to become of age. They're going to completely take this over and take it into a whole new direction and grow it to levels I've never seen. There's a mulatto guy I saw. He's in one of these group chats. He's a bit younger than me for sure. He's in the UK, and shout out to him. He's creating his. He has a whole website he developed, creating cryptocurrency and a whole mulatto nation. Like it's very interesting. A whole cyber republic. This guy, I might bring him on maybe on my other channel to talk about it in the future. But I'm seeing what these guys are developing. These mulattoes are developing. This younger generation. I'm like, very interesting. Way more advanced than me. Like I'm just looking at the historical aspect, especially with this stream here. I do like my responses and stuff like that. But yeah, some of these mulattoes who are taking this very seriously. They're looking at the future, like cryptocurrency, nuclear family, civilization, mulatto republic. They're really dialed into this, using tech, the information that's out here. It's very interesting. You guys have not seen anything yet because these other people, these mulattoes, they're not as public as me, you know. But I'm just one voice amongst many. Let me continue on. It would also benefit her own social standing if she were able to marry a white man, no matter his economic condition. So when in the United States, you see how they marry a dark-skinned black guy, even though he's broke. You have a mulatto woman, and then the mulatto woman has her, dark-skinned kids, and then she's jumping on the internet talking like she's pro mix, and she's like, "Hey, cash at me, support me. I need, help with school supplies and help me feed my kids, my dark skinned kids." We're like, what the hell? Like they chose the guy, regardless of the social, like economic status. See, I would have respect for the lady if she got with a guy that had money. I don't give a damn like whatever background the guy is at, but when you like the dude's got money, your offspring, your family, they're gonna be taken care of. Like if some of these women like they get with these dudes who are broke, but just it's the status, like because the dark skin status, they want to fit in with the dark skin community or the pale skin community, the white community. Look at this right here. This is 20 years ago, this article. This is Cuba, but we could see how it's related with America. It says I would it would also benefit her own social standing if she were able to marry a white man, no matter his economic, and I'm trying to say, no matter his economic condition. The same thing can be applied today when you light skinned and mulatto men look in the United States. When you see a mulatto woman who marries a broke, dark skinned guy, you're like, how the hell does that happen? It's because it will elevate her social status. She'll get acceptance into the dark skinned community. Do you guys see the correlation? Like they're talking about Cuba, which of course it happens in the United States as well, but it's the same. It's the same. This right here is the same, right? Their status will be elevated, meaning they'll be more protected, I guess. I don't know what the hell that means, protected in that community. I don't know, but that's what people believe. They can believe it all they want, but when I report the news and it says otherwise, and it's quite interesting. The novel is a social commentary and shows that white men were not unaware of the mulattoes' many hardships. The author presents the various class and race issues of the day, makes it protagonist in sympathetic character. So, guys, this article, like I can already tell, it's very lengthy. Honestly, I've read a lot. I don't want to read all of it. I honestly don't. I just want to hop up on here and share some of it with you guys. I've been a little bit over an hour. I'm going to kind of leave you guys with that. I'm going to link the article in the description so you guys can have access to it, and perhaps maybe in the future or in a couple of days, whatever, how depending on how I feel, I can come up and finish the article. But I'm gonna just for right now leave it with that. Okay, let you guys kind of marinate in what I provided for you guys. Check out your comments real quick. So the Owl Show puts mulatto, biracials, and multiracials have to focus on learning and promoting their history in the United States, their cultural backgrounds, and their specific status as mixed race people. I agree. MVL will drop some info on this on my TikTok. Appreciate you, man. I like your TikTok, bro. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I like your specific niche and the wit that you have and the humor. I like your stuff, bro. I like your stuff. You definitely I like what you're doing. So keep doing what you're doing, bro. We need people like you who post the particular type of content that you post. Facts. Seven Rhino put shout out to Mulatto Vanguard. Keep up the hard work. Appreciate you, bro. Or gal. Seven Rhino. Sons and daughters of Spaniards were recognized as such. Interracial marriages were common. The book reflects Americanized leftist perspective. Interesting. Yeah. I think the article as well is more kind of feminist, kind of female kind of lens, right? Which is given. A lot of these people are in the humanities and journalism and writing this stuff, but that's why you need male voices to kind of balance things out, right? And of course, there's going to be pushback. They see a guy like me, they're going to push back. But it doesn't matter how much they push back; they're just strengthening us. We still have to get the message across, and of course, let the males know you have a voice out here too. You don't have to blend in and like and fit in with these other like you can create your own shit. And I'm saying that bluntly, create your own shit because legitimately create your own situation. Like you don't have to like fit in with these other groups. Like if you're mulatto and you identify as mulatto, start to build today. What are you good at? I just gave you guys a reference of a guy, a gentleman, mulatto man, identifies as mulatto out in the UK. He's created his own website talking about cryptocurrency, creating his own mulatto republic, digital like civilization. Like there's people out here with these skill sets doing their own thing. We all have a role to play. We all can do something, you know, like I'm not doing nothing special. We all can do something. So that's what I push. Example, you put Archivo General de Indies Sevilla San Domingo lists several cases of acknowledged hijos naturales, natural sons of Spanish men, free women of color. Interesting. Appreciate the source there. Yeah, guys, I just want to hop up here, provide you guys with that. Like I said, I might come back and check it out or finish it off. I just want to kind of throw it out there for you guys to muster on and examine. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys pretty soon. I appreciate you guys being here. Hit the like button, and I'll see you next time. All right. So peace out.